Peace to the fam. Peace to everybody in the building. Peace. Let me know if y'all can hear me before I press the share button. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Yeah, you can call in when I'm done, G. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Can you hear me, Sister Kaba? Can you hear me? Let me go on the other one so I can see before I press. I want to see how this thing looks. So it doesn't do the same thing it did the last time. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give the God 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give the God 1 second. Okay. We're gonna press share screen. Share screen. Application window. Share. Alright. Y'all let me know if this screen is sharing. What do we see? What do we see? I see that. All right. Peace to the fam. Today, this build is going to be about the black kings and governors in America from the 1700s to the 1800s. Free black communities established by blacks in America called Little Liberia and New Guinea. Interesting. We have two communities. One called Little Liberia and New Guinea. So we're gonna start with this slide here. This right here, you can look up the New England Historical Society and type in Nero Brewster, and this will pop up. So Black Kings. So it says a Black King of New England. New England is parts of the United States. It's dealing with Connecticut and 4 or 5 other states. Says Nero Brewster introduced a bill to gain his freedom to the General Assembly in 1779. It became law 234 years later. We will talk more in depth about Nero Brewster as we move on. What to take note is that people were taking political action at an early date, same as you saw in New York with blacks using political activism. Says historians identify Nero as one of at least 31 elected black kings and governors throughout New England from about 1750 to 1850. An African essence to the office or king or governor within the black community of New England is suggested by the election of many leaders with strong connections to the old country. Portsmouth's African Americans would elect Black King Nero every June during Portsmouth's Negroes' holiday or Election Day, the most important day of the year. It was held annually on the same day the white men of New England's towns and cities gathered to vote for their leaders. We're going to talk about Negro Election Day. This is just giving you an example. Here's a picture of how this parade or carnival would look. In this one, it says both King Pompey and Lynn and Prince Robinson of Magansett were African born and of royal lineage, while governors Tobia and Eben Tobias in the 19th century Derby, Connecticut, were the grandson and great grandson, respectively, of an African prince. So we have individuals who know they're from Africa. They have Pacific names. We're going to get it to them. King Nero Brewster of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Governors Boston of Hartford, Quash Freeman of Derby, and London of Wethersfield, Connecticut, were all native Africans. In addition, the names of Hartford governors, see the names, Cuff and Qua, both day names of the Akan, and Boston Trow or Norwich, Connecticut, seem to indicate that these men were of African birth, just as the classical slave Congoman Caesar, commonly given to the new Negroes, marks King Caesars of Durham, Connecticut, as of likely immigrant status. Of some 31 men identified as black kings or governors in New England during the 18th and early 19th centuries, the 11 are probable African birth or African royal heritage, constitute more than 1/3 of the holders. I don't know if I can share my screen, my whole screen. Let me see. Somebody told me to do that. Give me 1 second, because if I do, it kind of it messes up the thing. So we're gonna see, does it mess up or not. Is the screen bigger? Do you see it? So I got it on now. Is that better? Mic check. Is that better? I guess that's better. Okay. This on the side is dealing with the list of kings throughout the New England area. You can see these ones highlighted in red or burgundy. See Hartford 1755, Qua 1760, Cuff Hartford, John Anderson, Hartford, Plague Noyd 1780, Boston 1800. This guy here, William Linton, we're going to go really in on this individual, and I'm going to focus in on the people from Connecticut. So this is the list here. You can see, let me look at this other page to see if you guys can see the screen better. No one is saying anything, so I guess you guys can see it. Next slide. This is a gravestone of one of the wives of one of the black governors. This one is called, her name was Flora Hercules, 1749. She was buried in the Ye and Ancientest Burial Ground, New London, Connecticut. The years have not been kind to the red and brown sandstone gravestones carved by early Connecticut stonecutters. This historic stone for a black woman who was the wife of one of Connecticut's known black governors, Hercules, has flagged and peeled over the years, causing the loss of most of its inscription area in a few short years. This stone's wording will be lost, entirely lost. We know who these individuals are through the primary records. So, see that? 1749. So, let's keep moving. Before I get into the black governors, there's some things that I want to touch on. And there's some individual kings and people who call princes and things I want to elaborate on. So, it says during the Revolutionary War, our black king Nero led at least one meeting of 20 black slaves to discuss their freedom. He may well have held more. So during this Negro election holiday, which we're going to talk about earlier, people were discussing who he could have went against or who was the individual that was going against him to run. And it says this individual, Prince Whipple, born a prince of Africa, served as General Whipple's bodyguard during the Revolutionary War. He also stood with the general at the Battle of Saratoga and at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. According to legend, Prince Whipple accompanied George Washington during his famous crossing of the Delaware. In the 1851 painting by Emmanuel Gottlieb Leser, some identify the black Orisman as Prince Whipple. So see him with black guys somewhere around in there. There he is. Let me keep moving. Now, this individual, Prince Whipple, this will come from this book, which is very important, African American Historic Burial Grounds and Grave Sites of New England. That individual was said to be buried at the African American section, North Cemetery, Maplewood Avenue, near North Mill Pound, Portsmouth. Perhaps the first African American buried here was Prince Whipple, a former slave of General William Whipple, Revolutionary War soldier and a recognized leader in post-war African American community. He was born at Amadou on the Gold Coast of Africa. Tradition states that he and his brother, the name Cuffy Whipple, died 1820, also enslaved in Portsmouth, where the sons of an African prince who was sent to the colonies in America to be educated, but were instead treacherously sold into captivity at Baltimore by the ship's captain. All right. Where do we hear this type of story before? In the same area, or not that area, but in Rhode Island, you have the individual named Newport Gardner, who was a great musician and a church father and one of the first people who made mutual aid societies. So we have that same story. You heard me the other day build about Africans sending people to Europe. Well, now you hear another story. It says Prince and Cuffy eventually ended up being purchased by merchant William Whipper and were brought to Portsmouth about 1765 at the age 10. As you heard, he served with his master during Saratoga campaign in the fall of 1777 and once again in 1778 in his master's military regiment during the Rhode Island campaign of 1778. Prince soon became a trusted slave for Whipple, and when the American Revolution broke out, he served 2 terms of military service with his master. Oops, I need to go back. Sorry about that. Two served by his master. And Prince instead, when you see that first picture that I showed, then it said that it is a legend that he was with George Washington. That is not 100% proven, but this is 100% proven that he served with his master at Saratoga campaign in the fall of 1777, and once again in 1778 in his master's military regiment during the Rhode Island campaign of 1778. In 2013, the state senator Martha Fuller Clark of Portsmouth declared Nero Brewster and the other 19 captive Africans who deserved some closure. She filed a bill before the legislature to posthumously free the remaining 15 slaves. The bill then passed, and Governor Mag Hassan signed it into law. King Nero Brewster and Mr. Prince was the individuals or two of the individuals who signed this actual legislation. This right here on the right comes from that same book, Prince Whipple. See him here. This is where he's born. So these guys are called princes and kings in the 1700s. What was these individuals doing? Let's keep moving. So y'all heard me talk about Negro Election Day before. I'm not gonna go all the way deep into it, but this is a brief history of it. You can find that information in this book. It says Negro Election Day was the most important holiday of the year. I'm gonna say, in fact, this is the first holiday that we have recorded where multiple blacks are all around the Americas partaking. It is not surprising then that the occasion, who also adopted by the Yankees, the occasion was also adopted by the Yankee slaves from annual festivals to honor the Afro-American community, beginning in the mid-18th century and continuing in places of almost a century thereafter. Black New Englanders used the holiday both to elect governors and kings of their own and to celebrate the inauguration of the new officials. So that specific date that this said that this was started was in 1741. While outwardly it may have seemed that the slave population was simply imitating the elective festivals of their masters. In actuality, Yankee bondsmen were creating an important celebration of Black awareness, which, like similar holidays elsewhere in the Americas, borrowed from African forms of satires, white society, as much as it imitated Euro American institutions. So you have throughout the whole diaspora where we will take European holidays depending on the individuals and the time who was in rule, like the Dutch. You will see that the Africans took over Pinkster and we took over numerous holidays. And why do we take over these things? Because these are the times that we get to come together. So during these carnivals, epiphanies, and all of these Corpus Christi's and all of these organizations or holidays were not to say, oh, we're celebrating Jesus and these things of that nature. This was the time the slaves had off, and this was the time that they got to get together, and this was the time that they got to practice their culture behind the European festivities. And then we took it over. By the 1770s, Black election celebrations had expanded to include Norwich, Connecticut, and Salem, Massachusetts. When the 18th century ended, similar institutions were found in Derby, Durham, Farmington, Middletown, Oxford, Wallingford, Waltbury, Wethersfield in Connecticut, Danvers, Lynn, and North Bridgewater, and perhaps Boston in Massachusetts. Portsmouth in New Hampshire, and North Kingston, South Kingston, and Warwick Neck in Rhode Island. Additional Connecticut towns like Seymour, Woodbridge, and New Haven were hosting Negro elections in the early 19th century and probably began the tradition in the late 18th century. So, this thing of picking a king, picking a queen, did it come from the European? Why are these guys saying they kings and governors and they're in slavery? So I want to back up a little bit and show how we did this process in multiple places. And we did this process in the first leg of the slave trade. And we also did this same process at home. So this book here is called The Pinkster King and the King of Congo. So this is something that's going to be talking about Black brotherhoods, right? So it says around 1540, the Black community separated itself and applied for its own charter as Brotherhood of Our Lady of the Rosary of the Black Men, which it received in 1565. They were also caught a part originally in the early 1500s of a brotherhood that had Black and white people, and it was called the Lady of the Rose, and they separated and made their own. Now, it says, according to a specific chapter in their legislation, that Our Lady of the Rosary in Lisbon, members willing to be candidates for the prince, count, judge, treasurer, superintendent, scribe, administrator, the king had to submit their request to an electoral commission during processions. These processions are talking about parades, carnivals, etc. The king and queen were usually protected from the sun by a sunshade held by one of the members and wore a crown or hat covered with pieces of gold, silver, or anything shiny to make it look like a crown. In places with a large number of slaves, several Black brotherhoods could develop that were subdivided according to their slaves' origins or nations, named after the place or region in Africa from where they had been shipped, such as Congo, San Jorge Damina, or Mozambique. So these individuals took over these Pacific festivals. They made brotherhoods that was under the Catholic Church, and they brought those wherever they went. It says the earliest reports on black king elections and parades in the New World can be found in the Latin American context in the early 16th century. Bernal Diaz de Castillo described how during a celebration in Mexico City, a group of 50 supposedly dressed black men and women escorted their king and queen in a parade. Says the French traveler Guy Le Gentil de la Bourdonnais observed how African slaves in Lima were divided into tribes that were commanded by their respective kings, who were responsible for order and justice in their communities. According to Le Gentil de la Bourdonnais, the city's authorities of Lima used to give financial compensation to the owner of the slave who had been chosen as a king. In the 1830s, John Werdeman witnessed a slave celebration in Cuba where each tribe, having elected its king and queen, paraded in the streets with a flag. So, and Negro Election Day, it is said that they pick their individual king or queen through athleticism, which is something that is also done in West Africa, and through numerous tests to test the individual's powers. These brotherhoods as well were what you would say something like your mutual aid societies. So all of these things that the European has in his specific country, we took these things and turned them around and was able to hold on a part of our identity. Now, I don't know why this looks like that. Sorry about that. So now we're going to talk about one of the black governors. And this guy name is William Lansing. This comes from the book African American Connecticut Explored. It says a black entrepreneur built Long Wharf and the walls of part of the Farmington Canal. His work crews who built mansions and labored for Lansing in harbor and canal lived in housing he owned in a section of a town adjacent to and north of the New Square. It came to be known as New Guinea. Irish laborers lived nearby in a section called Cindyville. Both white and black often associated in groceries, hotels, and stores owned by Lansing. He became the go-to guy when the task at hand was to extend a wharf into the harbor to increase New Haven's commercial productivity. He devised a way to bring down screed from East Rock for a foundation that made the long dock sturdy despite the shifting mud flats at 3/4 of a mile. It was the longest pier in the country in 1810. So early in 1810, we have a black governor, right? This guy is an engineer and he is helping build this entire city or part of the major ports in the city. This map right here, again, is from the New Haven Negro Society. In the map, if you can see, I don't know if you can see in my pointer, it'll show you a reference map of early Negro New Haven, 1810 to 1830. These keys will show you the Center Church, the Trinity Church, Temple Street, African Church, Negro Baptist later, and it'll show you the coffee shops, etc. So it says white business partners, including many of New Haven's mercantile elite, helped subsidize his land purchases and what became the New Guinea community. The community housed hundreds of African Americans, included runaway slaves, as well as free blacks and some white laborers. So this guy built this part of the city for the black people. They called it New Guinea to represent where they came from. In 2020, as we can see, this article, I believe this is in February, they're making a 7-foot statue right now to be put up to represent this individual, a black governor. It says a 7-foot tall bronze statue of William King Lansing will soon stand along Farmington Canal, giving a permanent, public, and highly visible form of a black New Havener who helped build the modern city. The lantern statue represents the accumulation of a decade's worth of advocacy by the Amistad Committee, working in recent years with the city plan department to make the memorial a reality. The public artwork will honor the early 19th century local engineer, entrepreneur, black political leader. He also fought for voting rights. Leader who freed himself from slavery, built a section of the Farmington Canal, and constructed an extension of Long Wharf that allowed for the local port to rival New York's. He was also elected black governor in 1825, helped form what is now Dixwell Congregation Church, owned land, ran businesses on what is now Wooster Square, and after encountering opposition from white authorities and the business establishment, he died in a poorhouse. So, whenever there's an individual who comes around, builds a town, adds on, the Europeans began to get jealous, and they made up lies about this individual, and they basically ran him out of town. So this is a black governor. This is a person that was dealing with science and technology, and he helped build the city. Sadly, they ran him out, but now we have a real monument that's going to be put up to represent this black man. Let's keep moving. As you see here, it says Hartford students Andrea Baldwin, Christopher Hayes, and Monique Price with the African American Monument. They researched and raised the fund to erect it. So people in the community striving to keep our history alive. You can see sacred to the memory of the 309 African Americans, free people, slaves, and 5 black governors who rest in unmarked graves at Hartford's ancient burying ground, 1640 to 1810. I want you to pay attention to that 1640 date. Our brother True Story is going to come on to add on about the free blacks that were there in the 1600s. Free. Right here, same picture of it. These are all of the individuals, governors, and free people, etc. So we are moving on from there. We're now going to talk about this place called Little Liberia. So this place also, Little Liberia in Bridgeport, was founded by 2 black women. 2 black women founded this town. Their name is Mary and Eliza Freeman. At the right, you can see these are the only houses that are extant today, is on Main Street. So it says during the 1820s, they purchased lots and built homes. The community soon boasted a grocery store, an African free school, a library, and 2 centers of African Methodism, the Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church and Walters African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. The families named their community Little Liberia. Eliza and Mary Freeman left instructions for the construction of an obelisk to mark their burial site in nearby Derby. The obelisk was an indication of their self-worth and a symbol for future generations of African American accomplishments. The obelisk still stands in Derby's Uptown Cemetery. So, why they choose the name Little Liberia? Because during this time, you had dealing with the 1820s. You see this here. Dealing with this time, you're dealing with migration to Liberia. And then the Europeans originally called it Ethiopia, but around the 1840s, because Liberia got their independence, they identified those people as their people and they tried to name it that. They also said that they were born into freedom. The 2 women who never married became successful landowners in 1848. The sisters purchased adjoining building lots, Little Liberia, and utilized their homes as rental property while they worked and resided in New York. Their activities in New York in this period are little known. Eliza moved permanently from New York to Bridgeport in 1865 and worked as a domestic at the time of her death. In 1862, she had over 3,000 in real estate holdings in Bridgeport. Mary Freeman moved back to the community just prior to her sister's death and subsequently bought out the interest of her heirs Eliza's properties. So that will end that part. What just happened? Everything's black. Oh, okay. Let me get out of this. Give me 1 second. Whoa. What did that just do? All right, let me go here. All right. So with those individual women who did what they did, they actually went and built the town. They were actually moving around from Bridgeport to New York, striving to convince black people to come to that Pacific town. Again, as the European and the Irish and other people start to immigrate, they go away. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the link in here. Yeah, I know. I stopped sharing. That was the end of it. I'm going to go back into it in a second. I'm going to go back into it because there's every actual part of that build, you can do a presentation on each part because there's so much intertwining history with the Revolutionary War. There's so much intertwined in history with these festivals and carnivals and the stuff all of these individuals did. That will take a little second. So I got the link in there, waiting for Mr. Truth to come in here. Any questions or anything from what you just saw? I had a late night last night. Please excuse me. Peace, MBK. Peace, Charles. Peace, everybody. Oh, the people are scared to come in here, huh? Why they don't want to come in? Oh, True Story said nope. Oh, man. The Truth said he don't want no smoke. He don't want to come in. Okay. So, yeah, you do have free blacks that are there from the 1600s. Some of these individuals achieve manumission, and when they have manumission, they skated to little towns, and then the European made new laws to push the blacks out of the town. They said, we don't want you living here. We don't want you amongst us. You got to go. Why did they do that? Because they was nervous as time would go on that more free blacks will come there, and they did not want to make them have a permanent stay. But that's another bill that I would go into because I would like to, go into those free people because you have people there from the 1646 who are free. You don't know too much about them, but you read about them through the records and some things that they did. Other than that, I like to keep my build short. Whoa, what the hell what was that? Support the History Brothers. We trying to make the History Sisters. We trying to get the people to come on and add on and build. Somebody else asked me for this, and I gotta find this brother before he gets mad at me. Who's Richard? Peace.
Peace now. Now, what you brought up is interesting to me because now it's I get to see that there were colonial Africans that were in the New England area, and then when Dunmore
Yeah.
offered freedom to those in Virginia, there were British Africans. So now that now I get to see that there's two different groups here trying to get freedom in different ways, aligning themselves with the two fractions of the Western world, and then you take it back to the 1500s with those societies. What I'm trying to do is bring together Africans who are becoming westernized and identifying with being westernized and supporting one side or the other of the Western development, which I think we don't really bring out a lot, especially this colonial piece you just brought up. You know, we hear about revolution, you know, Africans were fighting in the Revolutionary War, but you bring up that these communities that are being built, they are really working out to is it assimilate or integrate in that area?
Well, even in that point in the 1800s, there when he was building his things, even William Lanson, there were Europeans that were there, and they would work with each other. They would do dances and stuff together, but that is stuff that you know is not really wanted there. So when you talk about the Revolutionary War, yeah, you had the Dunbar Proclamation that was supposed to free people for the British, and they became the Black Loyalists. Then you have the people on the other side who were the Patriots, and they followed up and then their own kind of we want to free the people type of thing. So at different times, you have different nations taking over. So you might have the Dutch there, right? Then you'll have the British that take over, and then you'll have different pockets. Even just moving around there, you'll have the French in New Orleans. So these are different people, a part of the slave trade, that are all dealing with what you call asientos or contracts that they're getting from Spain, etc., to bring people here. So at different periods of time, these Africans come from different regions, but in essence, they mostly all West Africans, and their goal was freedom. So what you saw was that individual was pleading with these people to say, trying to show them that we can work together, that we can do this together. We don't have to be separate. But they got jealous, same as Black Wall Street, same as everything else that goes wrong. They wasn't trying to hear it.
Yeah, and the picking of a king, is that because those princes are, you know, directly, you know, they identify with they come out of that, and those people who are selecting the kings, they're doing it out of the traditional African cultural process, or you know, staying with
Well,
that.
there's debate over that. They speak about it, and first they tried to say that we can't build no organizations on our own, that we directly copy the European. But then you start to see that it's everywhere. Like that's why I showed you Cuba and the other places. So it's called syncretism. That's really the word that we're looking at. You have African culture mixed with Dutch culture. Did the Dutch bring people to the Americas? Yes. Do we have a Pacific language that is mixed with their language? Yes. Same thing in Portugal, etc. So we, when you look at the secret societies that we talk about, like the Abangi and the Expo, all of these things were procession or sort of like a carnival where people wore masks, etc. That all dealt with picking the king, all these different things of that nature, even going through an actual history part. So these are things that they remembered, and they used this because it made them. They was able to keep that identity, which is why those brotherhoods are important, because they divided each other by nations. So like
Mm.
I'm from Congo, all right, you a Yoruba dude. This is your set, but behind that is saints, Corpus Christi, and Christ. All this other stuff is behind it, but that's not really what they're doing. They syncretizing it, and that was their way of revolt. So you have people that's in a position where they can't do nothing. Now they able to hold on to their identity. That's how we know who we are.
I, I see somebody else is there, but another question, because I like the concept that you had raised. I heard you raise at one point in talking about the Bible being a cultural eraser, as far as Christianity being a cultural eraser. I like that. I like that. You know, conceptual framework. So here we're seeing, are they Christians? And now, when you're saying they're taking on saints, are they becoming Christians? And I understand the Portuguese, you know, those in the Congo, in the 1500s going to Portugal and becoming, that. But when we talk about in Rhode Island, and are they Christians who
Yep.
are okay?
What are they doing? Then we just read about the black governors founding churches.
Right. Okay.
They're Christians.
Hmm. Hmm. And still using African cultural, still identifying to somewhat.
Right, because that will go into the beginning, which will bring us back to those mutual aid societies. So those are the foundations of everything, and that's trying to take care of the widow, the sick, the elderly, and we was actually forced to do that because we didn't have nowhere to bury our dead. Right? You got something called the doctor's right that took place. What was they doing to our black people? They digging up our people, doing I don't even want to call it surgery, but they was violating our dead.
Oh yeah, in Philadelphia, the Jefferson, that area, they were sending them so that they could be able to train the medical doctors in that grave digging. The cadavers were being used.
Right. So these things, this is what they do. But I see somebody else on here. Asiatic God Mathematics, God for Peace. What's good with
you? Peace, man. Yeah, is my voice coming in clear?
Yeah, you clear.
Okay.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah. Nah, I'm not a big because I've been doing the knowledge to some of the stuff you do, some of your videos and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really a big history buff per se, but I like looking at you and the brother True Storian. I think y'all do pretty good works. In today's mathematics being what wisdom understanding, and seeing, basically seeing what we're saying while saying it. You get what I'm saying? Having that understanding while it's being spoken. And that's dealing with power, because wisdom and understanding born power. So, dealing with, power is also energy. You see what I'm saying? So the energy of, or the vibration of the words vibrate, because vibrate just means just like to vibe at a high rate. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, I watched Sarnetta channel sometimes. I don't really watch it that much, but I know it was he was one person that was the one person part of our nation that actually was on there. You know what I'm saying? So and it was because you got all the other people from the other different schools of thought, and you were actually doing, putting in work. I seen you just, and I just follow the sidelines, just do the knowledge and learn, because I'm like shit. If I try to get in there and talk about some history, I'd probably get slaughtered. I ain't big on the history. I'm more into researching, limbic system, different parts of the body to, just learn about self. I'm more into that type of thing. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, man.
Yo, that's peace, man. And thanks for checking us out. And that's what it is, right? So the goal is knowledge itself. Who are you? Where do we come from? What do we do? This is the stuff that they erase from us, and we kind of lose track of it. So if you really listen to this story, right? So if you just go back in your 1 to 36, right? And they say that they didn't know that we was over here. Why didn't they come back and get us? Because they didn't know we was over here. So you just heard a story where the Africans were sending people here to get educated. And then they would lie and steal them and keep them. So this adds on to the story so that we can add on about our plight and what we've been through and where we need to go. That just opened the door for us. And
if I had one question, about what you were reading, it would be how during the time the oppression, being that black folks was, slavery and all that was going on at that particular time. Right. How is it that on the other side they were still able to, just nobility?
How is there nobility on the other side?
How were they able to achieve this nobility? You know what I'm saying? Even though there was all this oppression and slavery and downgrading going on at that particular time.
Yeah, like if you could see, some of those individuals were real princes. They were real kings. Not some was a king, but they were real royalty. So this is how they were able to hold on to it, you know. And then the people look at them as living ancestors or the people who died before them, and they carry that on, you know. So like you have in Yoruba the Shango, the so-called thunder person, or etc., right? Or that deity that represents that element of nature. They even incorporated that in their prayer, but they didn't say Shango. They was talking about God as the big voice, the thunder in the sky, boom, boom. Same thing, syncretism. So yeah, so those individuals who had that nobility, yeah, that king and queen thing and those possessions, that carnivals or processions, dancing, yeah. And the way we kept that culture is that is the only time we was allowed to come amongst each other. And that is the only real time that we was able to plot and create our riots or rebellions to get at them. So that's why they started to band us coming together in a group. They don't want us in a group, you know. So that's that. And some of them, sorry to say, like dealing with the opposite direction of the trade, they was going to Portugal. They was going over there. You had people from the Congo going there, educating their children. They knew what was going on. You had some people in Dahomey who sent their embassies or emissaries here, not directly to North America, but you know, going to South and Brazil. Some of them knew what was going on, you know. And then you just have to realize this situation that everybody didn't look at each other as one person. Most of these people, you got wars going on. You got the Congolese wars. You got all these wars. These are war captives. So when they was bringing Pacific people over here, like the Akan or some of them Kong, they be like, yo, these guys are crazy. Like they turning up because they come from a war background. Because they was all they warriors. They got beat up and they got sent over here. And that's how that went down, bro. So who else is on here, man? I'm about to close this thing out. I don't want it long. I want it to be directly on the information.
You don't want it to be on the information.
Who's that? Black Benny Hill? Oh, I left you out there hanging in.
You tried to
I
play
didn't know
me.
who that was, son. I
What's
was
up,
just
True?
Peace, my brother. You tried to play me. I wanted to say first of all, bro. I don't think people are gonna catch it for a while if they happen to like go back and rewind it. But great job as far as the information that was in it, because it was a lot. And I really think seriously that people should, if they get a chance, just watch it from the beginning, and all the names and information were provided for people to do it. So enough with all that praise garbage. Um, I just wanted to answer Richard's question, and it kind of goes with what you, I guess, wanted me to say. Um, so let's just play a few questions. When did the Portuguese first come to West Africa? And I'm going somewhere with this.
1480,
Okay.
somewhere around
All
there.
right. It's fine. Fine. No specific date I want. So around that point. And so when did the Africans, as we know, end up in places like Lisbon and Seville?
That's the 1440s, 1441.
Right. Okay. Okay. Fine. So roughly around the same time. So now Richard asked the question of westernization taking place in the New World. You said the 1440s and 1480s. And the time that you're talking about, as far as the people in New England or whatever you just mentioned, is 200 years later.
Right.
So you have 200 years of cultural contact that we're not putting into play. So it also, we tend to think it's just one way. This is how Seville and Lisbon came up. And you see writings of not three quarters, but a third of the place got all these Africans around it. At the same time, this is how cities in Angola and Benin and in the Gold Coast began to come up. So there's acculturation, there's syncretism, there's westernization that you see in contact that is 200 years before the time that you're talking about. And though you pull up to Virginia, for instance, in or whatever, 19. Right?
Right.
That's how I think if we look at it that way, we'll see, well, yeah, like I said, they know the Portuguese, they know the Dutch, they know the English, they know the names, they know that Jesus is there, they know this, that, and the third. They're making bridge languages and blah, blah, blah. They know how to function in these now cosmopolitan cities. Why is this important? Because when you look towards the English and the Dutch and the first peoples that are becoming free, this is where that Atlantic Creole term comes in. They're already acculturated to the environments and understand the playing fields that they're in order to manipulate and bend it for what they want to get done, right? Those Dutch, those Black Africans in New Netherlands, the Anthony Johnsons of the world, the other people that we find in the 1640s and whatever. They know Anthony Johnson comes here as Antonio Negro, a name that he gets by being in that Iberian world in some capacity, right?
Right.
So when they get here, it ain't like all of a sudden they just grab them out the tree and you have no idea what these people are, how they, move and regulate, and the society goes. So when we look at it like that, to that point of westernization, by the time now you're talking about in 17 so-and-so in New England, they got the game and just implemented it in New England, right? You see what I'm saying?
Right. Who's that man? Who else is that?
Hey, what's up, Rob? On the Sunny Boy. I wanted to ask you, for the West Africans, when did they first receive the biblical narrative? Like any biblical narrative, whether it's Islam or the Torah, when did they first get any of it?
Well, Christianity comes there in the 1480s. So that's in the Congo. Islam, you're dealing with the kings who take that on because it's a trade religion. They can't trade with those people unless they accept Islam. You could be talking about the 9th century, somewhere around there. As far as all the people, as far as accepting it, you're not going to see that till 300-400 years later. The kings accepted it.
Like 300-400 years after the 9th century?
Yeah, because it was the kings who were the ones who were really that. And they tell you in the records that they got people in the towns. But hold on for 1 second. That's the brother Nadir?
Yeah. Peace.
Peace, man. Damn, I meant to send the link, but I'm not used to this PowerPoint thing. I just did it. But I know you wanted to add on about the New England piece, man, or whatever you wanted to get on it. I covered Lansing, I covered the Black governors, I covered Little Liberia, New
Let him
Guinea.
go. We can hear it again.
Yeah, he from that town. He got some stuff.
He got primaries. There you go.
Yeah. So like this is part of like a project I've been working on for like a decade or so. So like, and just really seeing like how.
I'm sorry. Could you just say your name one more time so we know?
My attribute is Naru Allah.
All right.
And on Facebook I go by Nadir Salam.
All right, peace, Nadir. Go ahead, go.
Peace. So like as far as like the Black governors go, the research that I brought me to is that a lot of that comes from a lot of African hostages that were took into America already came from a place with a solid political structure. So like politics wasn't new when it came to the New World. So when they was seeing that what the Europeans were doing, they was like, let us do our own thing, and we'll and we'll do our own type of governorship. And then the way the white people looked at it is by letting the Black people be their own governors, it'd be like a hands-off approach. So that's why people see like the slavery and oppression in the North different from the South, because in the South, like the European hostage takers, they were really, really on top of them and having like daily interactions. When in like the New England, they would have to they had a Black governor as an intermediary. So like some Black governors, they was like closer to like really pushing the European values on the Black people, and especially like the free Black people that came up from the South. So but there was some that was really like harsher than others, and some were more liberal. So it's like the white power structure had a keen interest in who would become the black governors at that time, because it would be the person that would basically set the trend on how the rest of the black population would behave. So, and that was like, and then when you come into like William Lansing, he was like a real new school because he wasn't attached to a master. He was a freeman, you know, and from the stories that I heard, he was like a fourth generation freeman. So like his family already has like a way of interacting with the world with their own type of, you know what I'm saying, independence. And at the end, like the way William Lansing was able to get money was through his engineering skills. And what he did was when he built Longworth, which became like the longest wharf in the world at that time, no one else wanted to deal with it because it was like a waste of time and a waste of money for a whole bunch of companies ever since the beginning of the colony in like 1630. And it's been like a project that no one was able to get. But the dream that all the merchants that had for that colony was for it to be a shipping town and for merchants. So when he was able to do that, he took a loss when he made it, but he took like a 6,000 loss for doing the job. But he made so much money based off of the favors he was able to do that. He was able to set up the community Little Liberia and have his hotels and stuff like that and gain political power. So what makes him more significant and him being in New Haven is that since Yale University is there, you have an intellectual power structure. And that was basically at that point in time, it was gaining a lot of momentum. And a lot of the one of the movements that really that was heavy at that time was the American Colonization Society. So what they saw for free black men wasn't for like independence and enterprise and like William Lansing was doing. They wanted the free black men to go back to Africa so they didn't have to compete with them. And that was causing a lot of like tension between the black community and the white power structure in America. So like in that time also you had in New Haven this man called Jacob Olson, and he's titled as the man of the father of African American history because what he did was he created like a oratory. It was like made into like a book, but what he did was connect the black people in America to the greatness of black people in Africa. And he like kind of coined the term African American because he's like calling us Negro and black doesn't give us an origin. It just makes us nothing people. And that's why they try to say like black people didn't have any soul. But he was like, how we have no soul if we the people that taught the Greeks and were the first like African bishops in the Christian church. And that kind of like inspired the AME church because he went from New Haven and he went to New York and he taught to let me get the bishop's name exactly for you. Well, I'll get back to that, you know what I'm saying? But he taught to one of the bishops for like the African Episcopalian churches, and that was the one that kind of invigorated the AME church. And this was like in 1818.
Talking about Richard Allen.
It was Richard Allen. It was in Philadelphia. This is in New York.
In New York is James Varick.
Oh, James Varick. Okay.
So like he so when he made that speech in New Haven in New York, and that invigorated that whole movement. So at that same time, the American Colonization Society was starting to pick up steam and momentum also. So you had like Jehudi Ashman, who was also from New Haven, and he just graduated from Yale. He went to Liberia to establish that colony. So that's where everybody started calling things like Little Liberia. So when they was calling that the town in New Haven, it was calling Little Liberia. It wasn't a thing of it wasn't a good thing. They were trying to say that these people are already colonized. So like the neighborhood was away from everything and it's already a colony almost, you know what I'm saying? So when he was establishing like the real Liberia in Africa, you know what I'm saying, it was like a hostile takeover because like one of the chiefs, it's a story like a general from America put a revolver to the chief's head, and that's how he got like one of the major land deals. And then Jehudi Ashman just went there and kept on the brutality, and that's how like they really established that land there. So their plan was to just train black people as missionaries to go there and to establish and basically be a proxy for American rule in Africa to push the American agenda there. And that's what they was looking for, like they was looking for that inside New Haven, and they went to like William Lansing and his contemporaries to help promote that. So we got there was this man called Leonard Bacon, and he was like he was a graduate from Yale, and he was the pastor of the Center Church, which is like one of the most famous churches and oldest churches in New Haven. And he's helped them start one of the benevolent societies and temperance societies, which help establish schools, banks, and other societal things for the Black community. But in his mind, it was just in preparation for them to go to Africa. But with William Lansing and his contemporaries, they was like, yo, we already established here and we're not going nowhere. And that started causing a lot of conflict. So it was a man named Simeon Jocelyn, which was he was also a pastor, but he was more of an abolitionist, like a universal abolitionist. So he wanted everyone to be free. He didn't care about the colonization part. So him and William Lansing, they started politicking, and they created this the movement for a Black college. And this was going to be established in New Haven, and this was about in 1830. So at that time, this was like the first Negro convention. So the Negro conventions in Philadelphia, the first one, the first one was like in 1830, and the second one in 1831. So the first one in 1830, the relative representatives from New Haven was a business owner named Quash Pierre, which was William Lansing's like right hand man. They did a lot of things together as far as like the Temperance Society, and before that, they filed a lawsuit against the Connecticut Commonwealth because they decided to not let Black freedmen be able to vote. So they already had like a lot of political establishment together. So when Quash Pierre went to the first Negro convention, they came back to New Haven, and he built with them about it. And with Simeon Jocelyn, that's where he came up with the idea for the Black college. And simultaneously at that same time, the Episcopalians inside New York was having the same thing, because they was getting admittance into colleges, but they weren't getting full admittance, and it was really scarce. So they was like, yo, if we can get our own, we can get our own. So when they connected the two together, the people in New York was going to be able to send it to New Haven, and New Haven's in a center right between Boston and New York, and it was along the East Coast, so people could come easily from the West Indies, because a lot of West Indians were free, because in the Somerset decision, where the British let all their slaves free, and about 1787, like right before the Revolutionary War. So they was trying to like gear up all these people together. So in 1831, they created they went to the Negro Convention, and the whole Negro Convention was all behind it. You know what I'm saying? So when they came back, they had William Lloyd Garrison was part of the movement. There was a entrepreneur, white dude named Arthur Tappan, who he already gave like 100 scholarships to Yale, and he was part of the American Colonization Society earlier, but now he was part of just universal abolition. So they all teamed up together with William Lansing to create this college. So right before they went to present the college to like the board, that same week was the Nat Turner Rebellion. So that, you know what I'm saying, with the whole fear of Black people having knowledge and having education, that was a fear that basically America hasn't gotten over to this day. So based off of that, New Haven had like riots where they went and burnt down. They went to William Lansing's neighborhood that he built. They burnt it down. They beat up people, and they beat up everybody that was involved with it. And they started just having riots for years after that. You know what I'm saying? And with William Lansing, they stripped him of his governorship for that. And what they tried to do is replace him with a person that was owned. He was a hostage. He was from I believe he's from the West Indians, and he was owned by somebody. So they wanted him in power because he already had let me get his name right. Let me get his name dead right, so I don't mislead nobody on that. Oh yeah, Quash Pierre. Yeah, exactly what I said. Yeah, so Quash Pierre was the next person that they put in. So they put Quash Pierre there, but he also had like a independence from white people, and that got him framed by the white establishment in New Haven. And then from there, they got this other dude named Charles Thomas, and Charles Thomas was also owned by wealthy merchants from New Haven, and um, he was different from William Lansing because you know what I'm saying he didn't go against what the white power structure wanted. He went against like as far as the American Colonization Society. He didn't say nothing against it, and he just went with the flow. But they wasn't feeling him either, so he got caught up in like a card game, and they had his governorship stripped from him, and that's how the whole black governor seat was stripped from New Haven because they didn't like an empowered black community. You know what I'm saying? So once the black governors became, you know what I'm saying, independent of the white power structure, you know what I'm saying, it became a threat. And you can see that pattern throughout, you know what I'm saying, throughout the history in America and in the black community. As soon as like a black figure or the black community gets too independent, it either gets burnt down or, you know what I'm saying, it gets discredited to the point where it doesn't have any more resources or it gets stripped of its resources. And William Lansing, even throughout that time, he created like a whole new neighborhood called Spireworth, where it was like an integrated neighborhood, but that too got, you know what I'm saying, the riots kept on coming out and he ended up burning that neighborhood down too. So he ended up getting framed, not even framed. They kept on trying to like say that he's has a house of ill repute because he would have people singing and dancing at his hotels and stuff like that. So he'll get
that's the same thing all over the place. They say
so like and then one time in one of his boarding houses, the two people that lived there, they had a fight and one got murdered, and they ended up sending William Lansing to jail for it. You know what I'm saying? Which made no sense. So his people had to petition to get him out of it. So like all these different things eventually just took his toll on him and his wife, and like he died in like 1851, like poor inside of a carriage house. You know what I'm saying? From gangrene. But it's always been like his life in the way they try to even bury it, because like he gotta like piece his whole life together right now, you know what I'm saying? Because the impact that he did have, you know what I'm saying, changed the whole landscape. And also like to include that whole time, like within that whole the riots of the Black College was the rise of the Skull and Bones. So like those Bonesmen in like in John Calhoun, it was like real staunch racists, and those were basically like a motivation behind it. You know what I'm saying? So like that the racism aspect and the anti-education for black people is really really core to how they maintain this power structure to this day. And the fear of a Nat Turner rebellion ever coming on a different scale still drives how they interact with the black community to today.
all right.
So I just want to say, Alan, let me just get this out for the brother. That is how you come around and rep your hood. I hope the people that watching this now and listening get it. So this brother just came on and just gave us all the Jews of Connecticut. That is how you do it. And I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother.
Oh, but I just want to, before I forget, so you mentioned Jehui Hashman. He's important. So you look, I want people to look up at the Ashman Institute, and you see how important he is.
Oh yeah. And the crazy part about it is that in New Haven, that's where like one of the toughest high rises was on Ashman Street. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like we didn't have no knowledge of who he was. We just know like Ashman Street is where it goes down at. You know what I'm saying? So like once you do the history and be like, that's what this dude was about. That's what he is. It's like it's a crazy link. So that's what really like putting my battery in my pack to do more research to figure out what the fuck is going on.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Ashman was the one that recommended that Blyden come to Sierra Leone, Liberia, when he didn't get, because you mentioned them not getting into schools. They wasn't getting into those theological colleges. Mm-hmm. Like I think Garnett and Crummell went, and then they shot up, was it the Oneonta seminary, whatever they was going and all that. So the other thing was like, all right, go to Sierra Leone or Liberia and do that. And I think he was the one that had recommended that Bly didn't go there. Connecticut
Yeah.
history, boy. And thank you
Yeah.
for mentioning the African college. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Because I'm telling you, man, the impact of what that would have done for the black community and what it would have done like for us today, yo. They knew that it would have been a game changer. It would have been a game changer. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's always been a motivation is to keep us off our feet and having that type of independence. So, like we look at everything, even today, how they fund the schools and how they make sure that like our inner city schools, wherever we are at, and wherever our intellectual centers are underfunded because like a intelligent black man in America is the biggest threat.
Well, I just
Biggest
wanted
threat.
that to sink in. Could you say that one more time?
An intelligent black man in America is the biggest threat, yo.
Okay,
They don't
thank
care
you.
about your guns. They don't care about no guns.
Uh-huh.
It's that if you're able to see like the if you're able to see clearly on how this place works, you know what I'm saying, and how it manipulates people and how to get our people out, it can't work like that. It can't work with intelligent black men. So
reading
that's
is good.
man, it's more than just reading though. It's more than
Okay.
just reading though.
Okay.
It's the comprehension and also like the knowledge of self aspect is really important. You know what I'm saying?
Educational.
Because you got like Thomas Sowell out there, and he's really knowledgeable and he read a lot of books, but this dude, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
can't really think himself out of a paper bag, really. So like, so it's like having be able to connect it, you know what I'm saying, and connect history and connect it to the politics on how things work. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing happens in a vacuum.
Right. I want to thank Alan once again for putting together excellent Sunday school. Thank you, Alan, for that. It's about time you did something. Nah, seriously though, man. That's been cool. Go ahead, Alan, my bad.
Nah, man, this was good because the brother he saw the build on the I put it on Facebook. He's like, yo, I've been working on this. I said, yeah, I got you, guys. You go come on. Got you, man. Yeah, he was turned up on that. He's like, oh, I gotta come.
Hey, yo, and like right now I'm in Thailand right now, so it's like, you know what I'm saying,
Oh, yeah?
going on like 12 o'clock in the morning. So like, you know what I'm saying, I had to stay up, put my babies to bed for this.
Oh, all right. That's peace, dog. That's definitely peace. Yo, what's your channel so that people can look at it if they were interested in that history?
Oh man, Young Adults Learning Evil podcast, man. You could just Google that and all my platforms will come up, man.
Let me put up there. Hold up. Young
Adults Learning Evil. And that's like an acronym for Yale, YALE. And that's like one of the names we used to call them. We call the kids that's like the Yaleys and stuff like that, because you know what I'm saying, they ain't learning nothing good up in there.
Are you from? You grew up in New Haven?
Yeah, born and raised, and I went down to Atlanta for college, and I stayed down there for like 7-8 years, and I came back, and then I moved out to Seattle in 2016. So you know what I'm saying.
So I used to go to Toad's place. Is that
yeah. That's the legendary space, man.
Yeah,
that's what. Like when the Wu came through, that's where they came through. I had a studio, so after the show, the Wu came through the studio after that was done.
So you like Wu-Tang?
I'm a 5%er.
Okay, so I want to invite you back anytime you wish. So when you don't even gotta ask that other guy, like you can come back because you like Wu-Tang, so you're automatically grandfathered in. For real.
Yeah, y'all. The gods is everywhere. Just in case
we
you
go.
who wasn't here, we everywhere. Today we laugh.
There we go. Roll a good thing, right? See?
The God is in Thailand right now. God, traveling. God, 100,000 what? Man, baby.
Yeah, man. Yeah, son. You was full in.
But before I forget, I know you can add to the list. Somebody had asked for a book. So Alan has showed some in the Rob Bourne, showed some in the presentation, right? So Black Yankees is the book. Black Jacks is another one, because it's all about them in that shipping, that whaling, that fishing industry up there. What else, Alan?
I'm gonna put it back up.
Damn, man. Huh?
I'm gonna put them back up. Hold on. Let me put the book back up. Wait a minute. Let me go into the thing. Yeah. So my screen is sharing. This book here. Hold on. African American Connecticut Explored.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So make sure y'all get that. This book here, The Pinkster King and the King of Congo, to understand how the concept of the king and the picking the king and the debate that is done in this book to show you all sides of the perspectives. This book here, Black Yankees, the development of the Afro-American in the 18th century. This deals a lot. I like this Negro Election Day. Y'all probably tired of me saying it, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Guys in there. And there's one thing that the God pointed out, which was excellent, right? So when you talking about this right here, brotherhood, right? Those brotherhoods were like the individuals who, as Danny was saying, are culturalized. They have the specific Catholic thing, and the new blacks that would come through, they would have to go see those individuals. These people were like the liaison between them and the slave master. The only thing with the Black Brotherhoods, we gonna get into this a little deeper because I got another presentation. We gonna go ham on that. They involved with tearing stuff down. So it coincides with what the God was talking about as far as those individuals. Yeah, some of them they had their own forms of justice. They would serve justice on people who stole
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, the God, 100% right. What's the other book? This book right here. Oh yeah, y'all gotta get this. African American Historic Burial Grounds and Grave Sites of New England. So this right here will give you the grave sites or different African burial grounds, not the one that you just hear about that we talk about a lot in New York, but you hear about God's Little Acre, and you hear about a whole bunch of them, and that's dope. And did I put another book in this thing? Nah. And then just look up. Every state has a historical site. We go to the New England historical site. That's why I pulled this stuff from here. I like how it was placed, so I grabbed that. And yeah, those are the books. This is your education today. You have now been looking to the way of mathematics, baby. Ah, wisdom, understanding, or being born power.
Power.
Oh,
True
here
indeed.
we
That's the
go,
truth.
man.
That's the truth.
Here we go. And he gonna say that's the truth. You see how they always with their little word digs, they get out of their folks? They try to get the civilians with that fancy talk, right? Every time.
Oh, I'm just saying, man. Yo, Daddy, what's the 23rd letter in the alphabet?
I don't know. Z.
Hey, get out of here. Sorry.
The J didn't come around, they said, to the 1500s. So your whole calculatory system as far as the alphabet is off. They told me the J ain't come around to the 1500s, yo. So you dead wrong. How about that?
Yeah, you crazy, bro. But yeah, man, yo, I really appreciate you added on about the bill. I saw you was real hype about it, so I was like, yeah, I gotta make sure I get the God on here. So
Definitely appreciate the God.
Yeah, that was definitely peace, bro. That was a peace bill. And this is the first time I build with you on a talking live, so that was good. It's normally on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Any questions?
Welcome back, bro. For sure. Like, and definitely, because I like to today what you did is show the environment where Paul Cuffey comes out of, right? And
oh yeah.
Now we can clearly see how this guy can be, one of the most successful and richest shipping dudes of the day, and he comes from that same environment, right?
Oh yeah, because that early after the Revolutionary War, like a lot of black people was able to get bounty. A lot of people had black people had wealth. You know what I'm saying? And they had the means to do things. So like, and then like, especially like the free societies that were going on between Boston on the East Coast and North England. So like, Paul Cuffey, his whole movement was coinciding with the same thing that William Manton was doing around 1810.
Right. So then you see that, and then in that same area, I don't want to get because I know Alan want to close.
Right.
But
another thing,
when you see the early legislation, right?
you see what Prince Hall, now it makes sense what he's fighting for, because those black sailors are getting kidnapped
Oh
when they're
yeah.
working on the ships.
Did you y'all gotta check out the story of Joseph Mountain. You know what I'm saying? And
Joseph
it's
Mountain, okay.
Joe Mountain. It's this dude from Philadelphia who ended up like he heard about the Somerset decision, and he went to a Quaker school. He was like, "Yo, I'm gonna get on the boat," and he sold to England. And then once he got to England, he joined like a robbery crew. He was out there like getting it in, like
we
you know.
We don't do that. You gotta come back and do that on its own. We don't do that. That's a little bit too much. That's a little bit too much for the people. But you are welcome to back and get into that. Don't give it away.
Yeah. So yeah, well, let me know, man. Yeah, shoot me my link, and I'm ready for that build too.
Right on, bro.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
Alan, once again, man.
Yeah, so this is what we do, man. Start where you stand, teach where you at. This is where we be trying to get the people on, man. Yo, where you from?
Thank you. Yes, he really rep CT. What
Yeah,
the fancy guys call what's CT?
See truth. See truth.
See who?
See truth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I really that was a good build, God. I like that, man. The God came ready. So we trying to get, so for all of y'all that got access to all these thousands of books we have that we give you for free, I'm waiting for you, CK, Florida. I see you in the chat. I see you shouting us out, but yeah, I'm waiting. Yo, man, that was a good build. Any other questions in the chat? I see something up here, Danny. I don't know if you want to talk about that. You see it on the screen?
What does it say? Danny Wujao asked a great question. I can't see that word. I'm in the sunlight. Converting
to our
former African traditions and culture, helping us in our current situations. It depends on what you're looking into it for. I don't want to get into this too much, but if you're looking for it to be a salvation, you're wrong anyway, because you messed up. If you're looking for some spiritual guidance along while you do your thing, I don't think it's messing it up. But we also have to understand, like we just talked about, you're looking at syncretized forms of things, so you're always going to be a give and take. You cannot completely recreate what happened on African soil amongst African people, not completely. So it's going to be give and take in those things that we created, whether it be Palo, Voodoo, Santeria, whatever it is, Yoruba. But if it's then, okay, now I have embraced this traditional West African tradition, problem solved, then you're looking for it for the wrong thing. It's not supposed to be a panacea for it. But yeah, we can get into that. So I don't have no problem with people embracing it, but it depends on what you're embracing it for. If it's some type of spiritual tradition, then to each his own, whatever, help you get through it. But it's not like, okay, now I'm no longer Christian. I am now a Yoruba practitioner and problem solved. But yeah, that's the short version.
All right. Well, y'all know how we do. Each one teach one to reach one. Peace to everybody. And yeah, God, if you want to come back on, if you want to build about something, you know what I'm saying, you come through. If you got
no doubt.
If you got your podcast, just hit me in the joint and I'll be like, yeah, we come through. This is what we be talking about, God. That's it. We'll be going
yo, I need that. I need that, Joe. That's my brothers, man. My alike show. So definitely, man. I'll shoot you a link, and if y'all, I'm saying, whatever y'all got, just shoot me, and we could just build on that.
All right, peace.
All
right. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. You had the guards on today. Danny was an invader. He's a build power, y'all.
That's right. Peace to my pagans in the building.
Peace, yo, that was peace, yo. This was good, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I like this shit. This shit was dope. All right, peace. Yo, this shit was crazy.